Always interesting when it first comes out. I mean, I wasn't surprised. I was surprised at the size, right? Because originally
Smaller.
the messaging was 2 billion. And so this initial, and I'm not going to be at all surprised when it's bigger than 250 by the time they finalize this. I think this is one of those where you're in your first offering and you're trying to feel out the demand in the market. And so you start somewhere very easily accessible, particularly because they priced it so retail could participate. And I think that's kind of a big deal for an offering like this to finally have the first chance for retail participation in a fixed income product that they're offering, because they've never had that before. Everyone always had to be a 144A. So that was interesting. I was originally thinking it was going to be geared only towards essentially the big institutions, the pensions, the endowments, the insurance companies, the ETF buyers. So that was why I initially thought that they'd price it at 1,000, but they priced it at 100. So that was good to see. And from what I'm hearing, retail can participate. It's just a $25,000 is going to be the amount that you have to put in to get an initial allocation. So that'll be good. That'll change it for people. But what I'm starting to look at that I kind of like here is it gives an immense amount of optionality moving into the future. So they're doing this initial offering, 250 million, whatever it ends up being. It's 8%. That's surprising a lot of people, but that was pretty much exactly what I thought it was going to be. I said 7 to 8% was my target range on this one. But they're essentially raising the money at a 200% premium right now. And I think that's a really big deal when you think about the initial accretion to the Bitcoin yield metric, right? It's way more accretive, particularly initially, than any of the converts are, right? So the highest convert we've seen so far, I think, was 55% premium. This is 200, but you've got the caveat of there's a little bit of time that has to be considered in terms of the funding of the dividend payments. So the 200's not a locked in stone yield, because that's going to erode a little bit over time as they use things like the common stock ATM in order to fund the dividend payments. But one of the most important things about this is that this offering allows for them to file another S3, and they can essentially open up an ATM on the preferred side of the house. Now, initially, that doesn't sound like a big deal to people, but when you think about looking forward, so now they've got a second ATM open, right? Which is going to freak people out initially. They're going to go, "Oh my God, it's over," But think about it differently. You've now got 2 ATM vehicles, one for Class A common, one for preferred, right? And the S3, I think, to open an ATM would come after this offering closes. I don't think it's going to come along with the closing. I'm guessing it's after. But so now they open an S3 and they say, we're going to raise $1 billion, right? With an ATM offering on the preferred. It starts out a little slow for sure, because they've got to hit certain volume metrics to be able to tap the preferred market with an ATM. But what it essentially allows them to do is stop using the Class A common ATM as their primary vehicle for raising capital, and they can go to the much more accretive preferred ATM to raise the capital, and they'd only have to use the Class A common ATM to pay the dividends, right? So they'd raise the cash for the dividend payments using the traditional ATM, and they would raise the capital to buy Bitcoin with the preferred ATM at a 200% premium, or maybe even a much higher premium, right? Because when they issue it as an ATM, it doesn't mean that they're issuing it at the $100 value. It's going to be whatever the market value is. So if the preferreds are trading at 150 or 175, right, they'll be able to raise capital higher. So it's going to be pretty cool, I think, moving forward. And I think that all the people screaming about the ATMs should be jumping for joy, because this new structure allows them to stop relying on that side of the equity equation. They can use a much more accretive equity equation that has far fewer shares of common stock. Plus, they get the benefit of stretching out the issuance of the common shares long into the future, because they don't need that many of them. So think about the dividend on this ATM or on this preferred offering. It's what, $20 million a year? If it's 250 million, if it's higher, it's higher. But That's like 2 minutes of ATM usage. It's like nothing.
Welcome back to the channel. That was Ben Werkman discussing why he likes the new MicroStrategy preferred stock offering, giving his thoughts on it. Had to share that with you guys. Wanted to get into some MicroStrategy news here today. Some Bitcoin news. It's going to be a quick one here today, but make sure to stay tuned to the end. I have a couple of clips I want to play for you guys. One from Saylor and one from Jim Cramer talking about Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. So stay tuned. And then I wanted to share this tweet here from Meet Kevin. Meet Kevin, another YouTuber. He's actually really smart. I don't think he's done his due diligence on MicroStrategy. He's trying to say that MicroStrategy's price is going up here during the intraday because they are buying Bitcoin at this bottom here. But in raw reality, nobody knows when MicroStrategy is buying and selling Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin goes up, MicroStrategy is probably going to go up. There is no real-time tracker of when MicroStrategy is buying BTC. We only know on those Mondays when Saylor tells us. And if anything, when they sell stocks into the market, that's probably going to be causing the stock price to go down. But it's interesting that other people are starting to weigh in on MicroStrategy. Some big finance YouTubers, I don't think a lot of them have done the due diligence and dive deep into what is actually going on here, but you can start to see some of them are coming and they're giving their opinion on MicroStrategy. So that is really interesting there. And if we look at the most actively traded stocks yesterday, we can see MicroStrategy came in at around number 8 at around $7.38 billion traded yesterday. So a lot of trading volume up here with some of the top companies in the world. That is definitely good to see. And I'm recording just a little bit before the market opened, about 10 minutes before. MicroStrategy closed yesterday at 347. You can see Bitcoin is currently at 102 right now. MicroStrategy will probably open flat because Bitcoin, when it closed, was at around 102. It hasn't really moved since then. And this is MooMoo, guys. We do have an affiliate link for them. You can get up to 30 free stocks, and each one of those stocks could be valued up to $2,000 each. It's basically free money. Check it out. It'll be in the comment section and description below if you guys haven't already. And then to get into some Bitcoin news, we can see yesterday the ETFs were selling off big time outside of IBIT. IBIT had a positive day. So BlackRock still telling their clients to buy Bitcoin while all the other ETFs were getting scared around the DeepSeek news that everybody has been scared about. I think that was just a great buy the dip opportunity. I'm not an expert in AI or anything like that, but it did seem like they may have underreported how much money it actually took them to create DeepSeek. But more will come on that, and I don't think it's a game changer for Bitcoin. Nothing really changes for BTC. We just had SAB 121 reverse. That is the biggest thing we've seen all year for BTC. People don't realize how big that is, that banks will now be able to custody Bitcoin and be able to give yield on that Bitcoin or give loans on that BTC. There's going to be a lot of exciting things that come out of that. That's going to be really a key thing to watch for in 2025. We have the potential of states buying Bitcoin, the United States government buying Bitcoin. This year has been great for BTC. We have a BTC president here in the U.S. I would not be bearish right now. And then we have the biggest raise in Japan. They raised $750 million to add to their Bitcoin treasury stockpile. This is Metaplanet. This is a Japanese company. They were actually the best performing Japanese company last year, and they are basically doing the exact same thing that Michael Saylor is doing. They are the MicroStrategy of Asia. So they're raising $750 million to buy more BTC. That is a huge buy. So we'll keep you guys up to date with that as it proceeds. And today's video is a little clip heavy. There are 2 clips here that I want to share with you guys, like I said, from Jim Cramer and Saylor. Make sure to watch these ones to the end. Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. Sorry, today's video is a little short. Just been very busy as of late, but we have new videos coming out every single day. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. Let's go ahead and check out these clips. Appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end.
Strategy. Okay, look, I say if you want to own Bitcoin, own Bitcoin. I own Bitcoin. You should own Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a great thing to add, to have in your portfolio, but not MicroStrategy. Just own the Bitcoin. That's
Science historian. I've read 100,000 pages of history, and I think the story of history is humanity's condition was improved when we got clean water, clean food, clean air, electricity, clean power, when we got petroleum, when we got cars, when we got nuclear energy, when we got antibiotics, if you look at the plight of humanity for thousands of years, people are dying at age 30. There's a 40% infant mortality rate because the food's dirty, the water's dirty, and they've got no hope. And when they were dying of dirty water and dirty food, they didn't know they were dying of dirty water and dirty food. We bled George Washington to death. Every rich person in the Middle Ages died of gout because they drank red wine, because they couldn't drink water because it was contaminated. And so all of these companies, if you look at the mortality rate of corporation is 99%, the average life expectancy of a company is 10 to 15 years. And you can say, well, we'll just take it for granted. Companies should only last 10 years. Just like, 40% of your kids, maybe they should just die before the age of 5 because that's just the way God willed it. Or maybe we should just die at age 31, which is the life expectancy in Elizabethan England. But the point is, they didn't die because they were genetically predisposed to die. They died because they had dirty food, dirty water, dirty energy. They worked themselves to death. And the best thing that ever happened to humanity was the passage of technology. So Satoshi put his finger on one observation. The observation is the money is corrupt and dirty and it's defective. And you want me to show you how it's defective? I tell you the story, 1,000 stories of people being murdered for their money. Every single story of Jews fleeing from authoritarianism. Every story in Germany of the Protestants, the Catholics murdering each other. Everybody that came to America, they came because they're fleeing for property rights. The entire history of the human race is littered with tragedy because people never had proper economic energy. A type 1 diabetic can't store organic energy. They will eat themselves to death. Fat is the way you store organic energy. Somehow, over the course of hundreds of millions of years, mammals figured out how to store organic energy, and they had fat cells. We as humans have not had the ability to store economic energy properly. We tried with gold, it never quite worked. I could give you 100 examples of it not quite working. I can give you 1,000 examples of hyperinflation dating back to 500 BC of money not quite working. For the first time in human history, we have invented a technology that allows a human to tightly bind economic energy to their person, or for a corporation to tightly bind economic energy to the corporation. What it means is you don't have to suffer an early, painful economic death. And you can tell me, oh, that doesn't matter, but I would point to everyone in Africa. I would point to all of the misery in Cuba and North Korea and Venezuela. I would point to the misery in the aftermath of hyperinflationary incidents that took place in Brazil, Argentina, Venezuela, Russia. I could go on forever. There are literally 100,000 pages. Read The Story of Civilization by Will Durant, and you will find 1,000 examples of currency collapse and economic misery. And this person, Satoshi, offered us this gift. The gift is you get to own your own money, and no one can take it away from you. You get to keep it. Right? You get to keep your life force. And what do I think will happen? I think that companies' life expectancy on the Bitcoin standard goes from 10 years to 30 years to 40 years to 100 years. And I think living longer is a good thing. And I think families' life expectancy, is dramatically increased. I could do the simple math for you. The half-life of money in gold is 30 years. Gold debases at 2% a year. 30, 35 years. The half-life of money in Bitcoin is forever. 0% inflation makes your money last forever. So I think that some people will not appreciate it and they won't get it. That's okay. You don't have to buy it. Lots of people won't buy it. By the way, I do think that if you ask how many Americans own it or care, they just tipped the election in favor of Trump. I think they care. I think the crypto lobby is the #1 political force today. So I do think there's a lot of people that do agree with me. They do get it. There are $800 billion to $1 trillion of real money that has been invested in the network. You can trace it if you like, but that doesn't mean it's for everybody. Everyone didn't install electricity in Florida, or sorry, air conditioning, right? Right, that's new. All sorts of technologies don't get embraced for 30 years, and this won't. But I would say clean money is just as important as antibiotics. It's just as important as fat. It's just as important as clean electricity, right? You know, so that's my answer to you. It's technology. It makes the world a better place, and I think that for 1 billion human beings that are destined to economic misery, for them it's the matter of life or death. You're not one of them, right? We'll stipulate. Lots of Americans aren't one. But drop yourself in Nigeria, where it's illegal to own the dollar, where the naira is going to zero, and then try to give some money to a person you want to help in Nigeria or capitalize a company in Nigeria, and tell me how you're going to do it. Because generally the answer is, well, we just don't. Everybody stays poor, every company fails, and all the economies collapse. And that's the same answer as a type 1 diabetic. We just don't. We just die. And, you know, I think insulin to a type 1 diabetic is Bitcoin to an African. It's a useful thing.